The Gilded Oak Hotel stood as a beacon of luxury and elegance in the heart of the city. Its towering structure, gleaming glass facade, and artful architecture spoke of prestige and sophistication. Inside, plush velvet carpets, muffled footsteps, chandeliers glittered like constellations, and the air carried the subtle scent of fresh flowers. The staff moved like clockwork, each member perfectly aligned with the hotel's strict protocols, ensuring an impeccable guest experience. In the depths of the hotel's five-star restaurant, Elijah Brooks adjusted his crisp white uniform and took a deep breath. At 34 years old, Elijah had been part of the Gilded Oak family for 6 years, slowly working his way up from dishwasher to one of the most reliable waiters. He was known for his attention to detail, friendly demeanor, and tireless work ethic. But beneath his calm surface, Elijah often bore the silent weight of racial microaggressions, from the dismissive looks of certain guests to the subtle slights from some colleagues. He had become adept at brushing them aside, focusing on his work with unwavering professionalism. At home, Elijah's wife, Maya, was expecting their second child. Their 4-year-old son, Caleb, was starting kindergarten soon, and Elijah felt the pressure of being the family's sole breadwinner. The steady paycheck and health benefits from the Gilded Oak were essential for their growing family. The demands at the hotel were relentless. Elijah often worked long shifts with little acknowledgement, watching less experienced coworkers get promotions he had worked hard for. Still, he persevered, driven by his responsibility to provide for his family. That day, the restaurant buzzed with heightened energy. A stream of high-profile guests was expected for lunch, and the staff was stretched thin. Sophia Martinez, the maitre d', approached Elijah, her brow furrowed with stress. "Elijah, we're short-staffed today. I need you to cover sections 3 and 4. Can you handle it?" Elijah gave her a reassuring smile, hiding his concern. "Of course. I've got it covered." Sophia nodded and rushed off. Elijah surveyed the expanded sections and mentally prepared for the demanding shift ahead. Lunch service began in full swing. Elijah moved effortlessly between tables, balancing trays of gourmet dishes while keeping glasses filled and guests satisfied. At one table, a group of executives debated over business strategies, barely acknowledging Elijah as he refilled their drinks. At another, a couple celebrating their anniversary requested a special setup, forcing Elijah to quickly rearrange the table settings. Despite the challenges, Elijah kept his cool. He knew that even the smallest mistake could lead to a guest complaint or a stern talking to from management. The restaurant was still bustling when a new table caught Elijah's eye. A well-dressed couple entered, followed by a young nanny carrying a fussy toddler and a diaper bag. The couple, clearly VIP guests, barely acknowledged the nanny as they were seated at a prime table. Elijah noticed the nanny struggling to settle the baby into a high chair, her hands juggling the child and her belongings. Elijah approached with menus, his warm smile in place. "Good afternoon. My name is Elijah, and I'll be taking care of you today. Can I start you off with something to drink?" The father barely glanced up. "Bring your best bottle of champagne, and something to keep the kid quiet." Elijah nodded politely, though the man's dismissive tone stung. As he turned to the bar, he caught the nanny's apologetic glance. Elijah offered her a subtle nod, a silent acknowledgement of her flustered state. As the lunch rush pressed on, Elijah's feet throbbed, and his back ached from hours of constant movement. Still, he kept up the pace, his mind juggling orders and special requests. Then, out of the corner of his eye, Elijah noticed something wrong. At the VIP table, the baby's face was turning red. The tiny hands flailed, and the toddler's mouth opened in silent distress. No sound, no air. The nanny hadn't noticed yet, and the parents were deep in conversation. Elijah's instincts kicked in. He dropped his tray onto a nearby table and sprinted across the restaurant. "The baby's choking." Elijah's voice rang out, cutting through the ambient noise. Guests turned to stare as panic spread across the nanny's face. The parents finally looked up, horror washing over them as they realized the danger. Elijah reached the high chair in seconds. He gently lifted the baby into his arms, ignoring the startled gasps from the mother. With practiced precision, Elijah positioned the infant face down along his forearm and delivered 5 sharp back blows. When nothing dislodged, he quickly flipped the baby and performed 5 chest thrusts using 2 fingers. The restaurant fell into heavy silence. All eyes were on Elijah. Then, with a small cough, the piece of bread flew from the baby's mouth. The toddler let out a loud wail, music to everyone's ears. The mother, Olivia Bennett, rushed forward, tears streaming down her face as Elijah handed the baby to her. She clutched her child tightly, her body shaking with relief. You saved her," Olivia stammered. "You saved Emma's life." The father, Henry Bennett, stepped forward, his eyes glassy with emotion. "Thank you. I can't even begin to." Elijah gave a modest smile. "I'm just glad she's okay." The restaurant erupted in applause. Guests stood, clapping and cheering. Elijah, still cradling a mix of relief and adrenaline, barely registered the noise. But his moment of quiet pride was short-lived. The restaurant manager, Charles Whitman, was already approaching, his face grim. "Elijah, my office." Now, Elijah's heart sank. The fallout. Inside the manager's office, Charles shut the door with a sharp click. He didn't waste time. "You disrupted the entire dining room," he said coldly. "You touched a guest's child without permission. You violated multiple protocols." Elijah blinked in disbelief. "Sir, the baby was choking. There wasn't time for her. You should have called for medical assistance." "That's protocol," Charles snapped. "Instead, you created chaos." Elijah clenched his jaw, trying to control his frustration. The baby could have died. Charles didn't flinch. "You're a waiter, Elijah, not a doctor. You overstepped." Then came the words Elijah feared. "You're terminated. Effective immediately." It felt like a punch to the gut. "You're firing me for saving a child's life?" Elijah asked, his voice hollow. "I'm firing you for disrupting service and compromising the hotel's image." Elijah stared at him, the truth sinking in. "If I wasn't black, would we be having this conversation?" Charles's face twitched. "Don't play that card." But Elijah saw it, the unease, the buried prejudice. As Elijah left the office, the Bennett family intercepted him. "What happened?" Henry asked. "They fired me," Elijah replied. "What?" Olivia gasped. "But you saved our daughter." Henry's face turned red with rage. "This is unacceptable. I'm calling my lawyer." Elijah appreciated their outrage, but it wouldn't change what had happened. "Thank you, but there's nothing you can do." "Don't be so sure," Henry replied, shoving his business card into Elijah's hand. "Call me. We're not done here." A turn of fate. The next morning, Henry and Olivia Bennett stormed into the hotel, demanding a meeting with Evelyn Carter, the hotel's owner. Olivia cradled baby Emma as they sat in Evelyn's grand office, detailing the incident. "He saved our daughter's life," Olivia said through tears. "And your manager fired him for it." Evelyn Carter, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s, listened quietly, then ordered an internal investigation. The security footage was undeniable. It showed Elijah's quick-thinking heroism and Charles Whitman's harsh response. Staff interviews echoed the same sentiment. Elijah had done the right thing. Evelyn called Elijah personally. "Mr. Brooks, I reviewed everything. What happened to you is wrong. I'd like to offer your job back, with a promotion to head waiter." Elijah hesitated. "I need time to think about it." "Of course," Evelyn replied. "He talked it over with Maya that night." "If you go back," she said gently, "make sure they change things, not just for you, but for everyone. A new beginning." Elijah eventually returned to the Gilded Oak on his terms. He negotiated anti-discrimination policies, mandatory staff training, and the demotion of Charles Whitman. The hotel slowly transformed. Staff felt safer. Guests noticed the positive atmosphere. One afternoon, Henry and Olivia returned to the restaurant, Emma in tow. "We just wanted to thank you again," Olivia said, handing Elijah a framed photo of him holding Emma the day he saved her. Elijah smiled, tears threatening to fall. "Thank you. This means everything." He had faced injustice and fought back, not just for himself, but for the future of every worker who followed. And in the grand, gilded walls of the hotel, Elijah Brooks had become more than just a waiter. He was a symbol of courage, integrity, and hope. For